You ready, Joe? Okay.
Let the minutes show that all board members are present and accounted for. And moving on to the consent calendar. Need an approval to, or a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move we approve it.
And second, that's the second amended consent calendar, right?
Thank you, yes, that is correct.
That's right.
Marcus Major,
Yes.
Jim Freaky,
Yes.
Dean Moberg,
Yes.
Jim Westmoreland,
Yes.
Jeff Clem.
Yes. Moving on to new business, hearing from the audience, limited to 15 minutes, individual speakers limited to 2 minutes on topics that are not on the agenda. Anyone? Yes, ma'am?
I guess this is a question for the board. Probably Jim, since you're our representative of High Prairie. When the board voted to go ahead and get 3 full-time firemen for out there at High Prairie, was it the understanding that when that person needed to come in here for training, that one of these people, one another fireman was supposed to take their place for coverage?
Well, that's an operational question, and I'm going to refer to Rich. I don't get into operational management, it's just policy.
No, it was never, we have the fireman report out there at 7 o'clock, and other than grass fire season, they come in here at 8, do training, do whatever we need to do, and they head back out there in the afternoon whenever the lieutenant releases them.
So they're in here regardless if they're having training or not?
No,
Yes.
that's not.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah,
So
if they're
if you're-
training, or if we're doing inspections, or if we're doing truck maintenance, yeah.
If
I
the-
mean, you just said that they report out there at 7 o'clock, I guess that's when their shift ends and begins. And then at 8 o'clock, they do the cleaning, whatever, and at 8 o'clock, then they come in here for whatever the day.
If they need to be
is.
coming in here, yes.
Okay. Well, as you know, we got the new sign up, and have you guys seen it?
Yep. Looks good.
I think it's really nice. Well, after I got the numbers, Rick, I went out there on 19 different occasions to try to give them out there, because I got tired of carrying them in my car. And I went out there at 9 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock, after, right at lunch.
They're
after lunch.
in here. If there's
Yeah.
nothing going on out there, if they're not on a call, they're in here doing work. Would you want them just sitting out there?
Well,
Yep.
I thought the whole thing was to have somebody on site out there to lower the response time for that area.
Well, we don't have the, we don't have
We
the,
don't have a
we don't have the
lot
luxury to have somebody out there all the time, regardless of what's going on or not going on. We have to manage the people where we need them, you know. So
Well, if you
we didn't hire people to permanently stay out there. They go out there and they, you know, there could be a big fire going on and they wouldn't just stay out there. They would come to help and all with training or anything else like that.
Roberta,
Jim, if you were mowing your yard and you had a heart attack over there on 92, and it took them 17 minutes to get from here, or 6 minutes from out there, what would you rather have?
Well, I mean, I couldn't have a complaint about it if they were in here doing something more important than sitting out there at the fire station, waiting on me to have a heart attack.
I was just, I don't know why I thought that. I just thought that they were to swap places and we had the coverage. And that's how come we got the fire protection on your insurance plan lowered, because it was a man thing. So I'm just befuddled.
Roberta, I've come in here before and no one's been here.
Well, I
Calls,
understand they do calls and
inspections,
stuff,
etc.
yeah.
So, I mean, it happens, but I think our goal was to make sure there was coverage after hours especially. Someone is sleeping out there every night. I mean, that was the goal. But
And I agree, I mean, there's less people home during the day, but, and less chance of a fire, but when you get more people home, there's more chance of fire. I just was curious.
Good
And I
question.
finally brought the numbers in here.
But then on weekends, there's 24/7 out there, right?
If there's nothing going on in here.
Yeah.
I'm not
Correct,
saying
correct.
they're staying out there.
Right.
It's up to the shift lieutenant as to where he's gonna put his people.
Well, does every fire station, do the people, why do they house their vehicle inside the station? I don't know that, is that a normal practice or?
As long as we've got space for them guys to park their cars inside, I don't have a problem with it. It keeps down vandalism. If somebody goes by out there and vandalizes a car, their cars are inside. During inclement weather, we're not keeping a fire truck outside. Right now, we've got a spare engine out there, but if they can move their cars in around that spare engine, then they can park inside.
Those are good questions. And so because there's no space down here, they can't park, you don't allow them to park inside here?
Yeah, unless it's really bad weather coming in, then they can park in here. Yeah. Like we go out weather spotting, we'll move everybody's car inside while we're gone. Rather than pay insurance claims for hail damage, let's park them inside, save the taxpayers some money.
And there's no policy or set procedure on how we run the second station at this point?
During grass fire season, yeah, there's somebody out there, we leave them out there 24 hours.
On the weekends, how often do you think that the guys are out there for coverage?
They're in here on Saturday mornings, and then Saturday afternoon, at some point, the lieutenants release them to go back out there. On Sundays, they might come in, they might stay out there. Again, it's up to the shift lieutenant,
All right.
what he needs them in here to do.
Yeah, and what the activities are for the day?
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions? I know, I know guys are here.
They're on these.
Yeah. I know you might have a comment. All right, so moving on to special reports, we have a presentation by Waste Management.
We have Mr. John Blessing, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
That's right, Paul Howe.
Paul Howe here with Waste Management to present a check to the board.
Great.
So I'll give you a little bit of a briefing. I think you might have heard, some of it where Waste Management hosts a charity golf classic, and the Kansas City market was selected to host it. It's really a special privilege and honor to have. Unfortunately, the timing was during Hurricane Harvey, and our corporate office being in Houston, all of the sponsors that provided all this money that we get to donate, most of them are in Houston, so it just made sense to cancel the event. The good news being is that all of the money that was pledged and promised, we still obtained, and it was around $400,000. We immediately turned around and gave $100,000 right back to the Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund. We spent donated about $125,000 through some other charitable organizations here in the Kansas City metropolitan area, some educational, historical, and charitable groups. And then, of course, we selected 16 fire departments when we were kind of going over, how can we really impact the community? 16 fire departments from Wyandotte County, Johnson County, and all the way down into Miami County that we provided $10,000 each for a total of $160,000. It's made sense when you're looking at, where can you support your community and where can you give some of this charitable money. And just here prior to the meeting, we kind of talked and joked a little bit about, people that get too close to fires and they end up backing up. And really it kind of hit home for us because there are, especially in today's day and age, you hear so many stories of tragedies that happen, and there are hundreds of people that run away, and it seems like there's just a few people that run to the crisis, and those are our first responders. And so that's really where we wanted to support and where we wanted to donate our money to. So we're honored that we're able to help support the activities that you guys do. I've got a really nice, totally fake check here. That if possible, I'd like to get everybody to
Chief, will you come around?
take a picture here.
One of the board stand here, why don't you come around and take the fake money?
Probably ought to close up a little bit. You don't mind me rubbing shoulders.
And that way you can get everybody in here. That sounds good.
Perfect. I'm opposed to that.
Cheese.
I thought you were taking video.
And as nice as this looks, it's the real check that really is
All right.
what it's all about.
That's what I was
I certainly appreciate that. Absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's
Pleasure.
always nice to
Our
see
pleasure.
organizations give back to the
Thank
community.
you, thank you. We're proud of it. Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
No, we got a couple more to go visit.
All right, well, thank you very much,
We
John.
appreciate it, and hopefully you can go to support some of the, I'm sure, the countless things that you guys have.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we got a bunch. So,
Very timely.
well, thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you very much.
Be careful. Watch for the deer.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
Great.
super.
Very nice.
Doesn't happen too often.
Can you schedule something like that like every time we have a meeting?
Okay, I can do that. I can schedule it. Now, whether they show up or not.
$10,000 is the problem.
I hear moving a storage company is going to be next month.
Vulcanized.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Items for action. I think the 2017 Cochran Head and Vic contract discussion.
We talked about this last month. I gave you guys a copy of it. It's the exact same copy we get every year. It's a 3% increase over last year, in line with what has been the last 5 years.
So with, as you mentioned, it was about a 3% increase.
Right.
And so we're looking for a motion to approve the 2017, I guess it'd be the auditing contract
Yes.
with Cochran Head and Vic in the amount of $52.15.
I move we accept it.
Second it.
Marcus Major,
Yes.
Jim Frankie,
Yes.
Dean Moberg,
Yes.
Jim Westmoreland,
Yes.
Jeff Clarence.
Yes. Items for discussion. The volunteer manual.
I also gave you guys a new agenda. I added one more item for agenda discussion.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
That's why Dean said amended.
Yeah, I keep thinking about stuff, so I've run it by you guys, since you guys get big dollars. Update to our volunteer manual. I talked to Jeff earlier, a couple of weeks ago, and I talked to, we've had some volunteers come in from, Platte City, North Leavenworth, Fort Leavenworth, Bonner Springs. They want to volunteer, but being that far out, they really don't do us any good. So we came up with the notion of possibly, instead of making volunteers attend so many calls per month, we make them work so many hours a month. We can station, put them at Station 2 in that time frame, bring them down here, whatever. In the process of doing that, we talked to Edwardsville Fire Department, who just got out of a lawsuit with that. And so I talked to those guys, and then I talked to Jeff, and our lawyer is looking into it also. But talking with Edwardsville, basically their policy was if they're volunteering and they volunteered from 7 to 7, they had to be there from 7 to 7. They could not leave. And that's where they got in trouble with FSLA. With our volunteers, the way I've got it written, they can cover in any amount of shifts they want over 3 hours. I mean, we're not gonna let them come in 15 minutes here and 20 minutes there. But if they come in for 3 hours, that counts towards their, I'm saying 24 hours a month. If they want to cover a 7 to 7 shift and at 4 o'clock something happens, they have to go home, hey, they're volunteers, go home. So I think that would probably alleviate the FSLA policy. Unless they were covering a shift for a paid guy that was off, then that would be a different thing. But again, if, something happens, they have to leave, we'll ship them on out.
On your volunteers today, how many of them hit 24 hours a month?
None, probably.
So none of them would be qualified to be a
Well,
volunteer?
what we're looking at doing is volunteers that start, and if you look at the thing I gave you, this would start with volunteers as of October 1st. So the volunteers we got up to this point would still be under the old rules of they have to make so many calls. volunteers starting afterwards would come under the 24-hour rule. So that way they know what they're volunteering for, and I've already talked to a couple prospects, and they don't have a problem with it.
And they would have to get that, at least that 24 hours, they'd have to get that in at least 3-hour increments.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if
That makes sense.
there's a call during that 24 hours, that's great. If there's no call during that 24 hours, then they don't have to make 25% of the calls. Like say if they come out of Piper or come out of KCK or something, we don't want them coming up here for a CO call.
Yeah.
You know, they're gonna drive all the way up here for nothing. But if they work their shifts, so they put their hours in, then that's gonna cover their requirements to be a volunteer with us.
Do you think it's going to deter volunteers from volunteering?
The two I've talked to so far were very happy to do something like that, because they said otherwise, you know, as far away as you guys live, we wouldn't take you on because we just, you know, it just wouldn't do us any good driving clear from Fort Leavenworth
Yeah.
to here.
Let me phrase it a different way. So, should we consider a and/or? What if somebody comes in and hits their 25 calls, or what's the minimum calls per month is what?
25%.
25%. If they're hitting their 25% and they're not hitting their hours, would that be significant for you?
And we can
would
do
you
it,
be okay
we can
with
do it
that?
as an and/or. Because if we get somebody from Lansing that can make the 25%,
Yeah.
well, it wouldn't make much sense to have them. And that's a good idea. I never thought of that, because that's what I was wondering, because we do have one guy who just wanted to join. He lives right here in town. Okay, now you're gonna be under this policy too, so we can do it as an and/or. And when they sign up, we'll make sure they sign, hey, you signed under this policy.
Well, can they just sign another either?
Well, you have to do, well,
Just think
yeah,
through that a
yeah.
little. it's
Yeah, we
conversation.
can work something out.
All right,
Yeah.
just trying to make it a.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do is get it to where we can open it up
Yeah,
to
I
guys that
like that.
live at Fort Leavenworth, guys
Yeah.
that live north Leavenworth.
Yeah.
The guys that can't make the calls quickly.
Well, it doesn't make a sense, yeah, if they're driving
That's the whole
20,
thing.
25 minutes here, they're not gonna come out here for the,
But I like
most of the
the
calls.
and/or, because we may have some
Yeah.
old volunteers that prefer that.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard of any, but,
that's
great.
yeah, we've got a couple guys, yeah, you make me stay down here 24 hours, yeah, well, I'm history.
Yeah.
But, because that's the policy they come under, so that's why, okay, your guys are frozen under where you're at.
When opposed to coming to the station 25 times in a month.
Yeah.
It'd be about 100
Or
calls.
25%. I did say
Or how many calls in a month?
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so you
On
did,
average.
you did a 25% versus an average of number of calls per season.
If it's an
How
and/or,
do
it's
you,
a
yeah, how do
win-win.
It is a
you,
win-win.
how do you figure a 25% when you don't know? what-
Well, and that's why we put
Yeah.
it down, we've set it 25% years ago, and it's, right now, everybody's making it. When we factor in, I mean, if the call happens between 8 to 5 and you work 8 to 5, you get an excused credit for that call. You didn't make the call, but you're excused, we know where you were at.
Didn't
Now,
count
1
in the
o'clock in the
calculation.
morning, you didn't make it, no, that's a missed call, that's not part of your 25%.
Okay.
So, it's worked out pretty decent. We really just lose the guys that really just don't care. But this is, you know, something, if this is something you guys are interested in doing, then we can go ahead and start looking at changing the volunteer manual. But, yeah, go ahead, Jim. I got it.
Well, I'm not near as familiar with you or as manage this, but paragraph 313.2, last sentence, covering as a fourth person will not be paid. I don't quite understand.
Well, right now, we have 3 guys per shift.
Oh, okay,
So
so we,
if one of these guys wants to, like, one guy yesterday asked me if he could, you know, start covering shifts. Well, if he wants to cover as a 4th guy, we've got a 4th bedroom at Station 2, he can cover his volunteer hours
Right.
as a 4th guy.
but like you say,
But we're not gonna.
we can
and if
only
he
pay
wants-
3 guys.
Right, but if he wants to cover as a 3rd guy while the 3rd guy's on vacation or whatever, we'll pay him to do that, but he's not gonna be able to cover a 4th shift and be paid.
Right.
We're only
Okay, I
gonna
see
pay
what
3
you-
shifts. But if he wants to cover as a volunteer on the 4th shift, we've got a 4th bedroom, more power to it. Now we've got 2 guys at Station 2 instead of 1.
3132, you talk about the first 24 hours are not paid, and then after those 24 hours are paid, and it says it's at the discretion of the chief. What kind of indicators do you use when you make that decision?
When the paid guys, the career guys want to go on vacation, we first call the volunteers to backfill. and they get first shot. Well, they were getting first shot, now we're down to one volunteer. So basically I put out, when somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to take such and such date off, I just put it out to the guys that have said they want to work overtime and the paid guys. I've got an open shift. Okay, if the volunteer says he wants that shift, because he works a lot of shifts for us, but if he doesn't want to, then we open it up to all the paid guys. So with this, you got to work your 24 hours first before you can get paid. You got to volunteer 24 hours first in a month.
Okay.
So the 25th hour you're here, if you want to cover a shift, and it's an approved shift, not a
Then
fourth
you get
guy,
paid.
then you get paid for it.
Did you say that we have one volunteer?
No, we have one volunteer that's covering shifts now.
The other volunteers don't want to cover shifts.
Yeah, we're down to, everybody else has got full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Now, we just picked up in this last 5 weeks, we've picked up 3 guys and maybe 3 more prospects. So it's a flood all of a sudden.
Great.
So when these guys are looking at doing some volunteer work, so.
And you're going to open it
So
up
right
to-
now, we're just at
All right.
Nate's the only guy working, and we give him, he worked a lot of hours.
Okay. Any issues with doing an and/or on the? on
No,
this?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, why don't you run with that? Next topic of items for discussion, generator project.
We have met with our engineer, and he brought in a generator salesman, technician, and we're discussing what his recommendation was, and which I found out to be true also. If we contract out to Joe Blow Company that we want a generator installed and all this and this and this and this, he's gonna go out and get the cheapest generator he can get. And then we're stuck with it afterwards. We did this when I was on Landale Water Department, that's why you saw so many different fire hydrants at the time. And when I was on Landale, we said, hey, we're gonna start buying the equipment now and you're gonna install our stuff. That way we can control what we're buying. The suggestion is that we buy the generator outright first. That way we can spec the generator we want.
Right.
We'll save probably 15%, because if Joe Blow, buys a generator, he's gonna bump up the price 15% on his bid.
Well, not only that, but with y'all's knowledge, you can get a state-of-the-art reliable machine.
Yeah, we're not gonna get the
Because we
cheapest.
can't go with some
Yeah, we're not gonna get the
off-brand.
cheapest, so that way we could go ahead and get the generator purchased this year. I talked to I was in Texas here a couple weeks ago. My daughter's neighbor deals with generators. He's not a generator salesman. He sells stuff that goes with generators. So he has no dog in the hunt for whatever generator. He deals with them all. He basically said stay with Caterpillar or Cummins. He said the rest of them are just going to be some issues. So this guy would come up the other day. He's with Caterpillar. They do have a state buying. They're on the Missouri State Buying Cooperative. So I asked him to give me a price, not a bid price, but a quote, so we could, or not a quote, but a budgeting price, because we need to talk to somebody else, and his is right around $40,000 for the generator and automatic transfer switch, basically all the hardware we need. The generator's about $35,000.
Okay.
And the transfer switch is about $5,000.
Did we talk about numbers before? Is that in line with what you were thinking?
Yeah, that's in line. We talked with the engineer, and he did the survey. We were originally looking at an 85 to 100 kW, and once he put his meter on here, we need to go, it needs to be over 100, so next size is 125 to run the whole building. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I got that same look Marcus has got. To run the whole building is 125. Once you get up there, the price of the generator is not,
Right.
it's $4,000, $5,000. So let's spend the extra $4,000 or $5,000 to get what we need instead of, boy, I wish we'd have had this much more. Because the price of installing it's going to be the same. The concrete pad, the conduit, the wiring, the cabling is all going to be the same. It's just the price of the generator is going to be a little different.
Is on the electrical, is that anything that prison can do for us?
No, it's over there.
That's done?
Well, I've talked to their electrician. He said he would bid it off-duty. But as far as electricians, they've got two. They've got one inside, one outside. So they're
So we'll have to
they're
bid
not
on that.
backfilling, you know, with the prison being torn down
Yeah.
and remodeling, they're not hiring. They're 30 positions short in the maintenance
All right.
department right now. So he said, yeah, that's,
So we'll have to bid on all those components.
we'll have to bid everything.
All right.
So the plan would be then we would go ahead and buy a generator and then write up the spec. Joe Blow Company will install our generator.
Is there, in your research so far, is there a class of generators made by different, that are designed for high sensitive reliability organizations
Yes.
like fire departments,
Yes.
police departments?
And that's why this
hospitals?
guy in Texas told me, because I told him, you know, we're a fire department, he says that's where you want to stay away from. He said Generac's a good brand for a house,
Yeah, for
but you don't
house.
want it for a fire station.
Yeah.
He said Cat or Cummins. That's going to be your two.
Now, how about an electric kick-on? In other words, I've heard that some of these big generators, you know, as soon as commercial power is lost, whammo, the dang thing starts itself.
Our spec will say it's going to, the transfer switch will kick in between 0 and 120 seconds. So we
Okay.
can set it for instantly or wait 2 minutes before it starts.
That's good, yeah.
So
Okay.
it's adjustable where we'll, and that's pretty standard transfer switch. I'm learning a lot.
So you're wanting to go out to bid on generators,
Right.
right?
Or if he was supposed to send me information, if we get a good enough price, are we interested in doing with the Missouri? He said he didn't know if they were with Kansas. It's Foley Caterpillar out of Kansas City. And he said he didn't know if they were on the Kansas bid sheet, but he said they are on the Missouri bid sheet, and he will give us the Missouri state
Can we
prices.
find out, does Kansas have a bid sheet as well for this?
I don't know.
You look into that?
Yeah, we're looking
All right.
into that. That's what he was supposed to be sending me that information. He didn't.
Best price, doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's
It doesn't
it.
matter.
Yeah, that's it. And I've got to call into Cummings also, and they haven't called me back.
Are the dimensions pretty much the same?
Yeah, they're just huge.
Do we know
They're
how
just
big a
huge.
pad we need? And we're gonna get that done before cold weather?
No, what we'll do is bid the generator, get it sitting here, and then in January, February, we'll go ahead and bid the whole electronic and basically say, okay, as soon as we let the bid, start putting the generator in, and then sometime after July 1st, we'll be doing the electrical. Just set it all out as one bid, because we don't want to do the electrical until after July 1st, when we actually take over the property, but we want to have the generator in place before we do that, so when they cut the power, if they cut the power for a day and a half, then we've still got.
And generators like this more likely or should probably go with the diesel motors?
No, we're gonna go with natural gas.
Natural gas, that's a
Natural
good
gas.
idea.
I've already talked.
I hadn't
to-
thought about natural
We've
gas.
talked to Westar,
That's a good
and
idea.
they've come out and done their measurements, and we need to buy some kind of a step up for water, moisture, pressure, and it's gonna cost us $400 for that moisture step up meter, something. Again, I'm learning. But this is from Westar, or
Yeah,
Kansas
natural
Gas.
gas.
Do any of our surrounding fire departments have a generator like the one we're putting in?
No, most of them are bigger.
Will you?
Believe it or
have
not.
you? Yeah, I can believe that. Do you think that they probably have an opinion on what they're using and whether it's working well? Can you have a few of those conversations, see if there might be a third we should invite to the mix?
Okay.
Just
I know
Digging that a little bit.
Department north of us is really unhappy with the ones they've got, so we'll find out what they're using.
that's good. Yeah, all good feedback.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Now, have you guys talked about a shelter over that thing?
yeah, this will be with an
It will have a
enclosure. This
shelter.
will be an enclosure. Enclosure's about $6,000 of this price.
It'd be
And that's
worth
what
it.
this gentleman in Texas actually says.
It'd be
He
worth
sells
it long
He says, I
run.
don't deal in these small generators, I deal in 2,000 kW generators.
That's a big,
wrong
Because I
with
was
that?
gonna buy a Type 2 acoustic, and he says, no, he says, you're adding another 10 grand for a Type 2 acoustic, you just need a Type 1 acoustic, so he saved us a whole bunch of money there, so. Because we're really not too worried about noise.
So, what size generator are we talking about then?
A 125.
okay,
We need over 100,
125.
but we don't need a 125, but there's nothing in between. And the
Yeah,
price
but-
is,
Is a 125 gonna is a 125 gonna last if you start upgrading and adding two?
well, that's we talked with the engineer, and he said, yeah, that will give us room to expand.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Well,
Option to
100 will probably
expand.
do us right now, but if you ever, he said, you're right on the line at 100. So if you want to expand at some point, then your brand new generator is not big enough.
And it's not too big that it starts wet stacking.
No, and that's one thing, the policy I've got written up, and the reason it's 40 grand is for 5 years, they're doing all maintenance, they're coming out and doing all testing. The first 5 years, maintenance is included in that 40 grand.
All the bugs ought to be worked out well before that.
They come out twice a year and do the checks and do the tests, and for 5 years, it's theirs basically, and then it's ours.
All right.
So that's, you can look online and see a $26,000 generator, but that's what we've added into is the maintenance and stuff.
Okay, any further discussion on it?
Well, and when you're working with generators, you got a peak load and a sustained load. So it's
125.
125 will be the peak load, yeah.
that would be the peak load.
That's
So
what
our
we have to-
sustained load would be roughly
Less than
100.
that, yeah, it depends on what comes on at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
gotta have that. You gotta
Yeah, oh
have
yeah,
that.
that's why he put a meter back here, and it's set back here for 3 weeks, and we got the peak loads during the air conditioning was on, the air compressors kicked on,
Yeah.
so that's what we came up with. Since we don't have a meter, we don't know, so.
Rick, do you have enough information to bring a bid projection to the next meeting?
I will hopefully have that if I can get these guys rolling. So like I say, I put out requests, but if they don't answer me back,
We
there's
have
one
the
request to.
requirements now that we need.
Yeah,
so-
to the other generator, Cummings, I put out a request Wednesday, and here it is Monday again, and I haven't
Well,
heard from
but-
it. So I put out a request for Caterpillar, and he called that afternoon. So that tells me right there, Caterpillar wants to do some business.
There's
Well, the
nobody
better
in
we
town
can
right
spec our requirements, the better it'll be.
Okay, moving on to deployment policy.
You're all aware the last 2 years in Kansas, we've faced some very horrendous fires out west. They've called for crews from North Dakota, South Dakota, Colorado, Wyoming to help out. So the state's trying to get more local resources together. So what they want us to do, and Leavenworth County Chiefs have gotten together, we want to form a task force to be able to send to western, central, southern Kansas. A task force being 4 brush trucks and a tender and a task force leader. The tender is basically a tanker, a large water truck to nurse all the brush trucks. Tentatively, District 1, Fairmont, Sherman, Kickapoo have all volunteered brush trucks, and Tongi Township has volunteered their tender to form this task force, and there's only one chief in the county that's got the credentials to be the task force leader.
And who's that?
I don't know. But anyway, so we had a meeting the other night, and the state is going to require that the boards approve off on this. They're going to want some kind of a resolution saying, yes, you guys are for this, since there will probably not be any reimbursement. We'll have to keep track of everybody's time and the costs and whatnot. But as far as going to some of these fires, they'll pay, basically, you'll stay in a gymnasium. So there'll be no hotel rooms or nothing. You bring your sleeping bag. The town will provide food. The county somehow comes up with fuel, so there's really not a whole lot of expense out of the district's pocket other than losing a brush truck and chief for a week or so at a time. I've talked to all the guys. I talked to some of the other departments that sent trucks last year, asked them how it worked. They worked it. And basically, and I've talked to all of our guys, and most of them have bought off on it. It'll be strictly volunteer. We'll ask the volunteers also, but if the career guys want to go out and volunteer to do this, they would go out as volunteers. So they would have to take a vacation day. If they're on shift, they'd be taking vacation days and going out and volunteering. Because otherwise, it's going to be just, we can't afford to put guys on a 24-hour salary. So
Will they have an addendum to our policy?
We'll have to write a policy.
Because right now our policy is 60 miles, isn't it?
Yes. Well, for that's the equipment, so we'll have to come up with a policy that you guys are happy with. Chuck McGaw, the county emergency manager, he said this is going on throughout the state, so everybody, because they're trying to get, instead of one department sending a brush truck and another department sending, pickup truck with a water can in the back, and, they want reliable equipment, they want to be able to send a group of people. So they're trying to get a handle on Kansas fires.
Yeah, but surely they recognize that all the fire departments, the deploying element, you got to be able to afford the deployment element and the man and equipment to have enough back here
Right.
to keep,
Right.
to do the
And
job
that's
for
where
the
Leavenworth
community.
County, we get hammered on a day here or a day there, but we have a lot of equipment in Leavenworth County, so it will rely on now, instead of, okay, we're gonna go out and fight a fire for a couple hours by ourselves, then call mutual aid, the guys are gonna know, okay, in these 4 districts, they're already short a truck, these guys are gonna have to call for mutual aid quicker. We do have the equipment here, to be able to handle it, and that's, one thing you guys need to talk about, can we let a truck go? If it's an extreme, condition where, hey, it's tinder dry and we're going crazy, and we can't send anybody, then we're not sending anybody. It's a mutual aid.
Right.
If we can send somebody, we will send somebody. If not, just like this last spring, we got 3 brush trucks, 2 brush trucks in the Kubota, and 2 of them are down. Somebody calls, we need your 1 truck for mutual aid. Ain't happening. We gotta have it for our area.
One other question. What kind of range are we talking about? If we needed one that was on deployment to get back here are we talking about 50 miles, 100 miles, or what? To get back here?
Last year, they went to Hill City, they went out by Dodge,
Oh,
they went, it's basically, you don't cross the Oklahoma wall. From what they were saying, the Forest Service down there, there was an Oklahoma wall. The fire could go north out of Oklahoma, but no fire resources could go south. So basically, everything stopped at Oklahoma. Now, they're trying to work on that, but no, it's gonna be any place, basically in Kansas.
okay, any place you can.
Now, if it happens to, fire gets in Oklahoma and you cross over a line in Oklahoma, it's Cambodia all over again. We're gonna go over, a mile into Oklahoma, put the fire out.
So if we ever got to go out to western Kansas, take
Yeah,
a while
and
to
that's
get
where
our
these
shit
all are.
done.
They're all out, west. They're all 5-6 hours. And basically, we'll get the call at 4
That's
o'clock in the afternoon.
as a general
saying-
rule, 5 or 6 hours.
We'll get the call at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We need this task force at Hill City at 6 o'clock in the morning. And Hill City's an 8-hour drive.
Yeah.
So you're leaving pretty doggone quick. So, and that's up to the individual chiefs. If each chief says, no, I can't spare a truck, then we're not, they're not going. It's mutual aid.
Or if for some reason you had to call a truck back, it's gonna take
If you
about
have
8
to call a
hours.
truck
before
back,
you get-
like if we're out one, we got a truck out there and we break our truck,
Yeah.
we're on the phone, bring it back.
Bring 'em back, yeah.
It's mutual aid. You're doing what you can do to help out.
Yeah.
If we had a big fire here, if we had whatever here, people bringing in mutual aid to help us.
All right.
Just something that, we don't have extra, but if we can all work together as a county, then we can get it done.
Yeah.
Because those people are just absolutely, farmers are losing, thousands of head of cattle and horses, and,
Oh, yeah.
they're losing their life.
Oh, California's an
They're trying to get
absolute
up on it early.
It's a disaster.
Lessons
And
learned.
having a policy in place would be good.
Yes. So is that something the board,
Lessons learned.
is that something the board's interested in looking into?
Yes.
I think we should.
I mean, if you guys say no, then it's dead in the water, but if you guys are interested in looking into it, we'll write up a policy and.
It's just like the hurricanes, flood support, water rescue. If we have the ability to help out
We don't
without
put ourselves-
jeopardizing
Right.
Fire District 1, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The only other thing with that would be, I told the guys, like I say, again, there's no expense out of our pocket, but they need to know, what I'm gonna do is go from like Sunday to Sunday, and I'll set up a schedule, okay, who's available for this week, this week, this week, this week, that way if we have a call in the middle of the week, okay, I'll look at the schedule, these 2 guys have volunteered, are you guys ready to go? Yes, okay, pack your bags, and oh, by the way, Jeff, we just took a guy off your shift, we need to backfill.
Yeah.
So,
Item D, budget amendment.
okay, we talked earlier, we do have extra money tonight. It's $10,000. The $19,000 we sold the other truck for. We haven't got this truck sold yet, so for right now, we got right at $30,000 we need to, that we got extra this year that we have not budgeted for. So if we don't do anything with it, it rolls over into 2019's budget, or we need it now, basically, so we need to do a budget amendment so we can put it into the equipment reserve fund. You know, we'll say, the budget amendment will say, we're going to spend this money to go into equipment reserve, and then after the first year, we'll have to do another budget amendment, take it back out of equipment reserve, so we can spend it on the utility project. So I've got Steve Wagner working on that, so November we'll have the budget, I'll get it published sometime this month. It's gotta be just like our regular budget, it's gotta be published 10 days before, so hopefully in November, you guys will see this, and that's what it's gonna be for, and that's where it's gonna go. It's gonna go to equipment reserve,
Well, while we're
with
talking
the
about
understanding
budget,
of being spent on that.
while we're talking about budget, as far as our day-to-day operations for the rest of the year, as of the middle of October, we're $108,000, almost $109,000 under straight line. So, which is about 114% of the monthly amount. So that gives us, we got a pad as far as just our daily operation.
We budgeted money this year for equipment for the new truck that we did not spend.
Yeah,
So I'm looking at spending that money on the generator. If you
Yeah.
guys do decide to buy it this year, Caterpillar said if we buy it from them, we can leave it at their warehouse till somebody comes and picks it up. He's ready to work with us, so,
Can't go wrong with that.
we'll go working on that. So that's where that money will come from for the generator. So,
Caterpillar's not bad at all.
Are we able to buy like a 2018 Caterpillar if we buy it and it gets delivered in next year? Because right now they're probably going to only say 2017, I'm guessing.
yeah.
Are we able to buy, if we buy it now, are we able to buy a 2018 and pay for it?
Ask me that without TV camera. Well, we should be able to do this.
All right.
Year-end
There's, as long as we get invoiced before the first of the year.
Yeah, right.
If you guys don't have a problem with it not sitting here, just like we bought the
Right.
pickup truck this year, it wasn't sitting here.
Right.
But we invoiced it, we paid for it, and it came in
Even like on an
February.
auto, they'll start selling those 2018s
Yeah.
4 months early, so
Yeah.
just kind of,
Yeah,
So by the time we get through the bid process,
yeah, we won't,
Yeah, you gotta get
yeah,
a
for
bid
the,
going.
installing it, it'll be April or May before we're ready to install it anyway.
18 anyway.
So as long as you guys don't have to physically have the equipment here by December 31st,
Yeah.
we can get it out whenever we want.
Call that site preparation.
Yeah.
okay.
2017 year-end closeout sale price, $8,000 factory rebate, free lifetime warranty. Oh, wait a
Well,
minute.
for 5
Sound like a
years,
car
5
sale.
years of additional cost.
there you go.
Right, that's
Yeah.
right.
So,
Okay. Items,
now I'm done.
nice job. Board member concerns. Dean?
Not a concern. One thing I'd bring up, Delaware Township did meet and looked at the revisions in the interlocal agreement and agreed to same.
Okay.
So that's one entity done. You're still looking to get the document from Pam.
Well, she's had it now for a couple of weeks. She was supposed to have it back to me last Monday.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Jim?
Nothing.
Marcus? Jim?
I just wanted to make a comment on the budget. That's
Good. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
A second?
Marcus Major,
Yes.
Jim Fricky,
Yes.
Dean Moberg,
Yes.
Jim Westmoreland,
Yes.
Jeff Blunt.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.